The battlefield was quiet in a way that felt unnatural. Broken machines lay half buried in the dirt, smoke drifted slowly through the air, and the wind carried the smell of burned metal. Ronan walked carefully across the ruined ground, his boots crunching on shattered armor plates. He was a human mechanic scout, trained to move through old war zones and search for anything useful. But today something felt different. The silence felt too heavy, like the world was holding its breath. Ronan stopped beside a fallen transport ship, its hull torn open like paper. He listened. There was nothing. No voices, no movement, no signs of life. Then just as he turned away he heard a faint sound. It was small, almost lost under the wind. A low, rough growl. Ronan froze. He knew that sound. It was not human. It belonged to something dangerous. He followed the sound carefully, hand resting on the tool rig strapped to his belt. A second growl came, weaker this time, and Ronan realized it wasn't a warning, it was pain. He moved around a pile of wreckage and finally saw it. A large creature lay trapped under broken metal plates. Its body was covered in dark armor-like skin, and strange glowing marks ran along its back. Its eyes were open but dull, as if it already accepted its end. An alien war dog. A creature built for battle, created by one of humanity's oldest enemy species. Ronan had seen them before, but always from far away, always during fighting. They were powerful, fast, and loyal only to their masters. Most humans feared them. Many believed they couldn't feel anything but rage. But the one lying before him looked nothing like the unstoppable monsters from the old videos. It was shaking, wounded, and barely breathing. Its side rose and fell unevenly, each breath sounding painful. The metal plate on top of it pinned its back leg to the ground. Ronan could tell that if he walked away now, the creature would die within hours. The war dog looked at him, expecting something. Maybe a final blow. Maybe fear. But Ronan didn't move. He felt a strange pull inside him, something like pity and something like duty. He had seen many broken machines, but this was a broken life. He took a slow step forward. The war dog growled again, weak but warning. Ronan held up his hands. "Easy," he whispered, keeping his voice calm. "I'm not here to hurt you." He didn't know if the creature could understand his words, but tone mattered more than language. He crouched down, staying just out of reach of the war dog's jaws. The creature's eyes followed him, full of confusion and fear. Ronan studied the metal plate. It wasn't too heavy for him to lift, but he had to get close, dangerously close. One wrong move, and even in this weak state, the war dog could tear him apart. But Ronan also knew that letting it die would be wrong. Whatever it had been created for, whatever battles it had fought, right now it was just a living being suffering alone on an empty battlefield. "All right," Ronan said quietly. "I'm going to help you." He slid his tool rig off his belt and used a metal bar to lift one side of the plate. The war dog growled louder, but it didn't strike. Ronan pushed harder, feeling the weight shift. With a grunt, he lifted the plate high enough for the war dog to pull its leg free, if it still had the strength. "Come on," Ronan whispered. "Try." The creature didn't move at first. Then, with a slow and trembling effort, it pulled its injured leg forward. Ronan dropped the plate aside and stepped back quickly, expecting the war dog to attack out of instinct. But it didn't. The creature simply lay there, breathing fast, watching him with wide, confused eyes. It didn't understand why a human had helped it. It didn't understand why it was still alive. Ronan reached into his pack and pulled out a small water pouch. He set it down in front of the war dog and backed away. The creature sniffed it and hesitated. Finally, it dragged itself forward and began to drink slowly. Ronan watched silently. The war dog's breathing eased. Its eyes softened just a little. Not trust. Trust would take time. But it was no longer waiting for death. Something had changed. Ronan knew he couldn't leave it here. The battlefield was empty today, but scavenger drones or predators could arrive soon. The war dog couldn't walk far in its condition. It needed care. It needed help. And Ronan made his choice. He stepped forward again, this time with purpose. "I'm taking you with me," he said softly. "If you let me." The war dog didn't growl. It didn't bare its teeth. It simply lowered its head, too tired to fight, too unsure to resist. Ronan pulled a small hover sled from his kit, one used for moving heavy scrap. With gentle effort, he guided the creature onto it. The war dog winced but didn't lash out. Its tail curled slightly, not in anger but in something like confusion or acceptance. As Ronan began pulling the sled across the quiet battlefield, he looked back once. The war dog stared at him, its eyes no longer empty. There was a flicker of something there. Not yet trust, but something close. The battlefield was still silent, but now the silence felt different. It felt like the end of something dark, and the beginning of something new. Ronan didn't know what the future would hold. But as he led the wounded alien war dog toward safety, he knew one thing for certain. He had refused to let it die. And that choice would change both of their lives. The creature lay on the metal table, its breathing weak and uneven. The medical lights above it flickered softly. Draven worked fast, but he stayed gentle. He knew the alien war dog was terrified. Its body shook every time he touched it, even when he only placed a bandage. The creature had seen too much pain. It expected more. Draven cleaned the deep wound on the creature's side. The cut looked like it came from an energy blade. Whoever had struck it had meant to kill. The creature made a low growl, not angry but hurting. Draven stopped for a moment and spoke in a calm voice. "You're safe here. No one will hurt you." The creature did not understand the words, but it understood the tone. Its growl softened. Its 4 glowing eyes blinked slowly, watching every move Draven made. It still looked ready to bite if danger appeared, but something in its gaze changed. It looked confused. It had never been treated with kindness. Draven wrapped the last bandage and checked the rest of its wounds. Its ribs were bruised. Its leg was twisted at a strange angle. Its breathing was tight, like it was scared to fill its lungs. When Draven brought water near its mouth, the creature hesitated before drinking. It drank as if expecting poison. "You poor thing," Draven whispered. The creature's ears moved. It listened. It did not know the word, but it recognized the softness. Hours passed. Draven did everything he could. He used a bone stabilizer to set the war dog's leg. He applied a gentle sedative so it could rest without fear. He placed a warm blanket over it, even though its scales looked cold and strong. After all the fighting it had done, it deserved comfort. When the creature finally slept, its breathing still sounded rough but no longer desperate. Draven stayed near it, sitting on a small stool. He watched the creature's chest rise and fall. He wondered what it had been forced to do in the war. He wondered how many battles it had fought, how many orders it had obeyed, how many times it had been treated like a weapon instead of a living being. He reached forward and touched its paw very lightly. The paw was heavy and strong, built for combat. But in sleep, it twitched softly like a scared child. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," Draven said. The creature woke suddenly, jerking its head up. Its eyes widened, and for a moment Draven thought it would strike. But instead it looked around the room, breathing fast. It expected chains, shouting, or punishment. Instead, it saw only a quiet medical bay and a human who looked at it with concern. Draven raised his hands. "It's okay. You're safe." The war dog swallowed hard. Its ears lowered again. Something inside it slowly understood. This human was not an enemy. Draven brought food, a soft mix easy for injured creatures to eat. The war dog smelled it, then ate slowly, watching him the whole time. After finishing, it made a small sound. Not a growl. Not a warning. Something else. Something almost thankful. "That's good," Draven said. "Keep eating. You need your strength." The creature touched the edge of his coat with its nose. A small, cautious gesture. It seemed to be asking something, testing him. Draven smiled. "I'm not leaving." Night came, and Draven placed dim lights in the room to keep the creature calm. Many injured animals panicked in darkness. He knew this one would too. The war dog shifted, trying to stand, but it could not. Its legs shook too much. Draven placed a gentle hand on its shoulder. "Rest. You'll heal faster." The creature listened. It lay down again, curling its tail close. For the first time since he found it, it looked less like a weapon and more like a living being that only wanted peace. Draven watched it quietly. He didn't know what the future would bring. But he knew this. He was not going to let the creature die alone. He had chosen to save it. And now the creature had begun to trust him, just a little. He whispered one last time before leaving the room for a moment. "You're safe. I promise." The alien war dog closed its eyes slowly. It did not fully believe the promise yet. But for the first time in its life it wanted to. The alien war dog woke slowly the next morning, its eyes blinking against the soft medical lights. Its body still hurt, but the pain felt less sharp. The room was quiet, warm, and peaceful. This was strange for the creature. It was used to waking up to alarms, to shouts, to the sound of machines pushing it back into battle. But now there was only silence. Then it smelled something familiar. Draven entered the room carrying food. His steps were calm and steady. He didn't move too fast. He didn't show fear. He didn't show control. He only showed care. "Good morning," he said, even though he knew the creature didn't understand the words. The war dog lifted its head but didn't growl. That alone was a big change. Draven placed the food bowl closer. The creature sniffed it and started eating. This time it didn't look afraid of poison. It didn't look nervous that something would be taken away. It just ate slow and careful. "That's it," Draven whispered. "You're getting stronger." The creature paused, then made a low sound. Not angry. Not scared. Draven heard something almost soft in it. He slowly reached out with his hand, but he did not touch the creature. He only let his hand stay close, letting the war dog decide. The alien sniffed his fingers. It hesitated. For a moment, Draven saw fear returning in its eyes. It remembered the battles, the commands, the pain. But then it pushed forward and touched his hand with its nose. This time Draven did touch the creature. He placed his hand gently on its head. The creature did not pull away. Its eyes slowly closed. Not in fear but in calm. "You're safe," Draven said again. For the war dog, this moment was strange and confusing. It had never been treated like a living being with feelings. It had been raised for war, trained to bite, fight, and obey without thought. Trust was something it had never learned. But now, with this one human, something new was happening. Days passed. Every day Draven came to check its wounds, change the bandages, and help it move. At first, the creature wouldn't let him touch its injured leg. It flinched away, shaking, expecting pain. But Draven always moved slowly. He always spoke softly. Over time, the creature began to relax. One evening Draven tried something new. He opened the door to a small recovery room next to the medical bay. It had soft floors and enough space for the war dog to try walking again. "Come on," Draven said. "Let's try standing." The creature looked at him, unsure. But Draven didn't force it. He simply stepped back and waited. The war dog tried to stand. Its leg trembled and its body dipped, but it pushed harder. Draven stepped forward to support it, placing one hand under its shoulder. The creature leaned on him, confused but willing. "Good," Draven said. Just like that. The first steps were slow and shaky. The creature stumbled, but Draven kept his hand steady. Each time it fell, he helped it up again. Not once did he get angry. Not once did he shout. This was new. The creature didn't know how to react to kindness. It only knew how to react to orders or punishment. So when Draven stayed patient, something inside the creature changed again. It started to trust him. Later that night, Draven sat beside the creature. He watched it breathe more peacefully than before. The creature shifted and rested its head on his boot. Draven froze for a moment, surprised. The creature had chosen to come closer on its own. He slowly placed his hand on its neck. The creature made a quiet rumble, a soft sound of comfort. "You're doing well," Draven said. But deep inside, the war dog still struggled. It remembered things from its past: dark rooms, sharp voices, endless fighting. Sometimes it woke in the night shaking, expecting danger. When that happened, Draven would sit near it until it calmed. "You're okay," he always said. "No one here will hurt you." One day, while helping the creature walk, Draven tripped slightly and almost fell. The creature reacted fast. Instead of attacking or running, it caught his coat gently in its teeth, steadying him. It released the cloth immediately, looking nervous. Draven laughed softly. "You helped me." The creature blinked, confused. But something warm grew in its chest. Maybe helping someone felt better than hurting someone. Maybe trust was possible. By the end of the week, the war dog followed Draven around the recovery room. Not because it was forced. Not because it feared punishment. But because it wanted to stay close. It would rest beside him when he worked. It would watch his movements, learning the difference between gentle hands and cruel ones. It learned that food did not always come with commands. It learned that rest did not always come with chains. It learned that silence did not always mean danger. And slowly, for the first time in its life, the alien war dog began to understand something it never thought it would. Humans could care. Humans could be kind. And maybe, just maybe, it was allowed to trust again. The base was quiet when the first warning signal blinked on the screen. Draven didn't notice it at first. He was busy checking the alien war dog's healed leg, gently pressing along the bone to make sure the pain was gone. The creature stayed still, trusting him more every day. "You're healing fast," Draven said softly. The war dog lowered its head and made a soft rumble, something Draven now understood as calm acceptance. But then the alarm blinked again, this time louder. Draven stood up quickly. The war dog's ears rose and its eyes sharpened. It felt danger before Draven even reached the console. Old instincts returned to its body, pulling memories of battle, fire, and fear back to the surface. Draven pressed the screen. A message flashed. Unknown ship approaching. Possible hostile signature. He felt the air in the room change. "Oh no," he whispered. "Not now." The war dog stepped closer to him, its body tense, claws digging lightly into the floor. Draven knew that signature. Months ago he had seen it on old files, belonging to the same group that created war creatures like the one he had rescued. They did not like to lose their weapons. And they never left unfinished work. "They're looking for you," Draven said quietly. The creature's eyes widened. Its body shook for a moment. Not from fear of the enemy, but from fear of losing everything it had gained here. Draven placed a steady hand on its shoulder. "I won't let them take you." The creature leaned into his touch, calming slightly. Trust had grown deep now, but danger tested it. The base lights dimmed suddenly as the unknown ship tried to scan the area. The walls hummed with pressure. The war dog moved closer to Draven, lowering its head and growling in a low, warning tone. "They're searching," Draven said. "They want you back." The creature growled louder, shaking the air. It didn't want to go back. It didn't want chains, commands, or endless war. It wanted the quiet room. It wanted food that was not thrown at it. It wanted safety. It wanted Draven. Draven grabbed his coat and a small pack of tools. "We need to move. I can hide you in the lower tunnels." He opened the door and the war dog followed him out, limping slightly but still strong. Draven moved fast through the hallways, turning off lights and locking doors behind him. But every few seconds the creature looked up, smelling the air. The scent of the enemy, its old captors, was getting closer. Draven whispered, "Stay close." The war dog pressed its side against him, guiding him away from the thickest danger. It remembered how the enemy moved. It remembered their patterns, their tricks, their cruel ways. Together they reached the lower tunnels under the base. But the danger didn't stop. A deep vibration shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. The enemy ship had landed. Voices echoed in the distance, cold, strict, familiar to the war dog. Its muscles tensed and its eyes went dark with old memories. Draven noticed and touched its neck gently. "You're not theirs anymore," he said. "You don't have to obey." The creature closed its eyes for a brief moment. It breathed deeply, trying to calm down. Then footsteps came. Heavy. Armored. Multiple. Draven pulled the creature into a side chamber and closed the door silently. They hid in the dark, listening to the enemy soldiers search. One of them spoke, voice cold and sharp. "The war unit is near. Recover it. Terminate the human if needed." Draven's heart beat hard. The war dog stood in front of him, shielding him even in the darkness. It no longer trembled with fear. Instead, something new filled its chest. Anger. They heard it before. They used it. And now they wanted to take away the only being who had treated it with kindness. Draven whispered, "Don't fight them. You're still healing." But the creature did not step back. It made a deep, rumbling growl, one Draven had never heard before. A growl that came from its soul. Suddenly the footsteps stopped near the door. A light scanned the cracks. Draven held his breath. The creature stood tall, ready to defend him even if it meant facing its past once again. The door handle moved. The war dog crouched, ready to leap. But the footsteps continued down the hall. The danger moved away but not far. The enemy was still searching. Draven placed his hand on its shoulder again. "We'll get through this," he said. "We'll find a way." The creature lowered its head, touching his hand gently. It trusted him completely. And in that dark tunnel, surrounded by danger, one thing became clear. This time the creature was not alone. This time it would fight for its freedom. And this time, it would fight for the human who gave it a new life. The sun was rising over the hills when Draven and the war dog finally reached the quiet settlement. After escaping the enemy soldiers, they had walked through forests, crossed old paths, and moved far from the ruined base. The danger was gone for now, and the world suddenly felt open again. Draven stopped on a small hill and looked down at the village. "This is home," he said, breathing out in relief. The war dog stood beside him. Its chest rose and fell slowly, no longer tense, no longer afraid. The creature had never seen a place like this. There were small houses, gardens, warm lights, and smoke rising from cooking fires. Children played in front of homes. People walked peacefully without weapons. It felt like another world. Draven placed a hand on the creature's neck. "You're safe here." The war dog leaned gently into him, giving a soft sound almost like a sigh. For the first time in its life, it didn't feel like a weapon. It felt like something living, something that could belong somewhere. When they entered the village, people stopped and stared. Some stepped back in fear when they saw the huge alien creature walking beside Draven. But Draven raised a hand and spoke calmly. "It's a friend," he said. It won't hurt anyone. The villagers trusted Draven. He had lived there for years before leaving for work at the base. Slowly people relaxed. A few children peeked from behind a fence, wide-eyed. The war dog lowered its head. It did not want to scare them. One small child stepped forward bravely, holding a round little fruit. "Is it hungry?" the child asked. Draven smiled. "Maybe." The child placed the fruit carefully on the ground and backed away. The war dog sniffed it, then gently picked it up and ate it. The children gasped in excitement and giggled. Seeing this, a soft warmth spread through Draven's chest. For so long the creature had only known fear and commands. But here, among these simple moments, something new was possible. Draven brought the war dog to his home at the edge of the village. It was a small workshop house made of old wood and metal scraps. Draven opened the door and said, "It's not big, but it's ours." The war dog stepped inside carefully. It sniffed the floor, the tools, the old chair, and the warm blanket thrown over the corner. It wasn't a cage. It wasn't a prison. It was a home. Draven set down a bowl of fresh water and some food. "You can stay as long as you want," he said. The creature drank slowly. Every movement was gentle. Every action showed that it finally felt safe. After eating, it curled up on the large blanket in the corner. Draven watched it settle down, its eyes half closed, breathing steady and peaceful. Later that day, Draven worked in his workshop. He fixed tools, adjusted machines, and planned repairs for the village. The war dog stayed near him, its head resting on its paws, eyes following every sound. It didn't feel the need to stand guard every second anymore. The danger had passed. As the sun set, Draven walked outside and saw the villagers gathering near a small fire. They waved at him, inviting him over. He smiled and went to join them. The war dog followed slowly, careful not to come too close at first. An older woman looked at Draven. "It trusts you a lot," she said. "He saved me," Draven answered softly. "And I saved him." The villagers nodded. They saw the bond between the two. They saw how gentle the creature had become. One man even offered a cooked piece of meat, holding it out with shaky hands. The war dog stepped forward, sniffed it, and took it gently without harming him. The man laughed nervously, surprised at how careful the creature was. That night, the stars were bright over the village. Draven sat outside his home watching the sky. The war dog lay beside him, its head resting near his leg. Draven ran a hand along its warm fur. "You're not a weapon anymore," he said softly. "You're family." The creature looked up at him with soft golden eyes. It understood enough to feel something warm in its chest. It moved closer, placing its head fully on Draven's lap. Draven smiled and continued to stroke it gently. Days passed and the war dog became part of the village. It helped carry heavy items, guarded the outskirts from wild animals, and played carefully with the children. It learned the sound of laughter, the smell of home-cooked meals, and the feeling of soft grass under its paws. Every evening, it returned to Draven's house and lay beside him as he worked. Their bond grew stronger with each quiet moment. One morning, Draven woke up to the creature gently nudging him with its nose. He laughed. All right. Breakfast time, huh?" The war dog made a soft rumble that sounded almost like a happy purr. Draven stood and stretched. "Let's go." Another peaceful day. Together, they stepped outside into the warm light of a new day. The village was calm, birds flew overhead, and distant hills glowed orange with sunrise. Draven looked at the creature beside him. Once a feared war weapon, now a peaceful guardian. The war dog raised its head proudly, breathing in the clean air. It had no chains now, no commands, no fear. For the first time in its life, it had a home. And it had found that home with a human who chose kindness over fear. A home found, and a new life beginning.